Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and choosing to be at our pavilion. I know there are so many exciting places to be at the moment and there are so many things happening at once, so I'm really excited to see you here at the most important event happening right now. So I'm Denis Stolyarov. I'm not a historian. I played several roles at this project, but one of them was an editorial, a production editor of the catalog, which we will publish soon when we include all the documentation in it. And at some moment we decided to include a text which would be a conversation between the artists in this catalog. And basically we realized that we needed somebody to moderate the conversation, just to kind of to make it easier for the artists to to express their ideas and to put it coherently into the text. So the text is brilliant, and we recorded it back in February when some elements of the projects were still in development. And when we were thinking about the public program, the curators of the pavilion asked us to kind of come back to this conversation and to talk again about various aspects of the projects as it came to fruition and as it, as it has gone raving reviews. So I'm going to introduce the artists first, and then I'll ask them questions, and we'll talk for maybe around 45 minutes, and then we open the floor to the questions. So please think about anything you want to ask our artists, and they will be happy to talk to you. But also, of course, they're here, so if you want to continue the conversation in private after we finish this public part, you are most welcome. So I'm going to go one by one, starting closest to me. So Sofia Seitkhalil is a multidisciplinary artist from Tashkent and a member of the Kizlar collective. In her work, she captures observations of Tashkent and reflects on the experience of living together with her relatives and loved ones. Anastasiya Sever, creative producer, co-founder and executive director of Kizlar collective. Aziza Kadyri, multidisciplinary artist and curator, co-founder of Kizlar Collective. Kamila Zakhidova, system designer working at the intersection of graphic design, publishing, and education in socially engaged practices, and she is a strategic advisor of the Kizlar Collective. Gulnoza Irgasheva, transdisciplinary researcher and moving image artist. So my first question is very simple. So can you tell me, why is it so important for you to work collectively?
Who's going to start?
Hi. It is important for us to work collectively. Even now we're like, how do we answer this question? Like, should it be one person, all of us, at the same time? Yeah. It's like a hive mind that we have. So yeah, because like we've been working collectively for many years now, and there have been generations before us, and we're trying to capture, document, strengthen the work that has been done in the region, in Central Asia, in Uzbekistan. And what we do understand as a collective, that it's kind of not for us to work individually. We don't believe in self-made. We do think that we need each other to support, to put like a critical input into each other, without like just being, oh, like, yeah, we support each other, but actually being there, trying to make an inputs together and grow together on a collective level, accepting our differences, our different visions, towards like a same mission for cultural transformations in Uzbekistan, in Central Asia, and on a global level. So yeah, that would be, if anyone wants to add.
And how did you start?
Oh yeah, this is one of the things I'm really proud of that we put in the catalog, because I love sort of playful expressions. So Kizlar Collective actually started as a karaoke group chat, which again, is a manifestation of the fact that there's always been a community, there's always been this inherent synergy that existed between, this group of people, and, we came together, and then when there was an opportunity to actually organize, self-organize, and try and work for something that we all believe in, it just came together so naturally. So, yeah, we started from a group chat where we were just having fun, but at the same time, we had this one opportunity to apply for a grant, and then that sort of jump-started our more sort of formulated way of engaging with each other and also with the community. We got the grant, and now we are, that enabled us to, start actually doing things that can give back to the community, and we haven't stopped ever since.
And actually, it's a nice part about give back to community, because there has been the work that has been done before us and in the meantime. So, for example, we all met through like collaborative work. Me and Aziza, we met in 2021 during the Femagora Festival that was bringing together Central Asian women practitioners in arts, culture, academia, and so on.
That was online.
It was online during the pandemic.
Yeah. It was online, and for the longest time, I could only envision Kamila as a little floating circle in one of the group chats that we had. And then when I met her in real life, it felt like I've known you for ages, and that's the magic of the digital age. And it shows how much we exist digitally, because we also emphasize that a lot of our practice is in the digital realm. And as this internet generation, the internet and being online and talking like I'm based in London, Kızlar is mostly based in Tashkent, but we're still able to work together and build these connections using digital tools. And yeah, this is something that we cannot sort of separate from ourselves anymore.
Yeah. And also like trying to challenge them and highlight the things that are not there for us, and then we need to kind of like notice them and try to challenge from within. This is was also part of the thing that was happening here at the exhibition with the AI, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah, that's a whole another conversation about how we can, as young women from the global south and Central Asia, how can we occupy the digital spaces in a meaningful way, and also make it more diverse. Because technological structures, even though they promise diversification and decentralization, it's not always the case. And I do a lot of work in like AR and VR spaces as well, where I do workshops for young women practitioners in Central Asia. So it's like one of the things that we do.
Okay, probably we'll definitely get to it, but first I wanted to ask a very simple question. So we are here in the National Pavilion of Uzbekistan, and the very format of the Biennale and a system of national pavilions, it's not a given format. It was it emerged at a very particular historical moment over 100 years ago, and today obviously it still has this very profound legacy. So my question is, what does it mean for you to represent your country, to represent Uzbekistan?
Oh. I will speak in Russian, but my colleagues, my friends will translate and help us. Для нас, как для Узбекистана, как для тех, кто имеет узбекистанский опыт, и для тех, кто проживает, живет, развивается и развивает Узбекистан, очень важно было представлять нас, потому что один из принципов Кызлар — это «ничего о нас без нас». Да, поэтому мы очень благодарны Фонду развития культуры и искусства Узбекистана и Центру современного искусства Ташкент за предоставленную возможность, за доверие, что мы здесь говорим о нас сами, являясь узбекистанками, проживающими в Узбекистане.
So Anastasiya was sharing that for us as Uzbekistani women, it is vitally important to be representing our backgrounds, to highlight them, to document them, by ourselves. So one of the principles of work in Kızlar Collective is nothing for us without us, nothing about us without us. Thank you. And then she was also mentioning like how grateful we are for the support and the trust that we have from the Center for Contemporary Art, Tashkent, ACDF, Uzbekistan, who like kind of provided us this support to pave our ways and to represent the rich Uzbekistani cultures by ourselves. And it's truly great.
Thank you. So the project is called Don't Miss the Queue. What does it mean? How did you come up with this?
We actually came up with it together. we were brainstorming. I just wanted a title that was catchy and also slightly nonsensical, but there is a lot of like sense that we put in it actually. So as you can see, we're in a theater space. We are on a deconstructed stage, and continuing this sort of visual language of a theater, I guess. You know, don't miss the cue is something you would hear as an actor when you are ready to go on stage, and they're like, oh, this is your cue, don't miss it. When you hear the sound, go on stage. But then we're also playing, like there's a bit of a wordplay, so cues are also social cues. And we talk about, again, as we explore women's experiences, it's about the social cues and social scripts that women have to navigate within certain societal and gender expectations in this journey of like searching for belonging and the sense of home and identity. And also, there's a slight interplay with the word miss as well, like don't miss the cue as in don't kind of, like, what's the word? Don't miss it as in like, it's there, don't miss it, but also don't miss, like don't reminisce about it, like it's gone and there are no more cues and you're sort of free to do whatever you want. I mean, it's up for interpretation, and we really like that it was like 4 very short, concise words, and it makes you, when you see the posters, I was hoping that it would make people think, what is that? I want to go see it. So yeah, that was that.
And during the preparation of the project, you've conducted a lot of research. Can you talk about it? What was it about? How did you approach it, and what was the purpose of it?
Yeah. So the research was kind of one of the pillars that created the exhibition, and it was important for us to talk and think about, reflect on how do we visualize migration, how do we document it? Because in the current times, there is quite a lot of tokenism around women who experience migration, and they're represented sometimes in a very binary way, like successful migration or migration that is kind of a failed and then people come back. And we wanted to go a little bit deeper to reflect that first of all, the migration is not some kind of a life experience that has a beginning and the end, and that is just like as a moment, the momentum of someone's life, but rather this life experience that has the roots in the heritage, the previous years that brought the person to the decision to leave or come back, the things that have been happening there that are becoming sometimes a shift of paradigms and prisms on how do we see ourselves, how do we present ourselves, how do we represent, which kind of questions we raise in the moments of being in the outer world, and then how do you feel when you're coming back, and then how your identity shifts, and then sometimes it's been molded by other people and not by you, and then you have this kind of a lot of dynamics that is happening. So we wanted to really like kind of diversify the visualization of those processes. And so what Kızlar also wanted to do is to not have only document the like our experiences that within the group, but because there are like 7 co-founders, but also like an immediate community of over 200 young Uzbekistani women, both in diaspora, those who are living here, well, here in Uzbekistan, in different regions, and to kind of have different experiences to be documented. So for example, young women who are mothers, how does it feel to go not only by yourself, but also when you have kids and when you have a husband? What does it feel when you're going precisely alone and you have no network over there when you're going to? Those kind of questions that people pose and have this kind of like working till the moment of like arriving to specific state, specific area, and then which kind of a journey unfolds afterwards. What are the relationships within the nature, with the bodily integrity of how do we perceive ourselves in the various landscapes, even the soundscapes, which was also part of the exhibition. And like through linguistic details, the dialects, social acts, jargons, this constant change and transformation. And all of this, like we were using the FPAR, which is like a participatory research methodology, that is not arriving till a specific point that we're trying to find out, but rather we were asking and making a bonding conversations with participants who are also parts of our communities. So we don't actually like to use the word like to conduct an interview, because what we're trying to do is to bond together. So sometimes it's sharing the tea together and trying to not push people to answer or to get a way where we want to lead them or highlight specific details, but rather have this possibility like a self-expression by the design means. And so from there we collected various areas and thematic topics that became later part of the visualization. So it's a kind of collaborative even on the design means.
And how did you turn this research into an actual installation, and how have you transformed those answers, those interviews into actual various aspects of the exhibition?
Мы с Софой подготавливали...
Me and Sofa? Okay, maybe not at the same time. Yeah, okay, sorry. I tried.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
Мы с Софией подготавливали видеоработы, видеоэссе, и когда мы еще были на этапе формирования того, как они должны выглядеть и что в себя включать, основываясь на как раз-таки исследовании, потому что мы очень долго рефлексировали над тем, что нам рассказывали все контрибьюторки, и думали о том, как мы можем показать вот это какое-то движение, которое происходит в жизни, при этом не делая деление на черное и белое, на плохое и хорошее.
I was so listening and forgot about the translation. So what we were trying to do, especially in the beginning of the first stages, me, Anastasiya, and Sofia Seitkhalil, who were working together on the video essays of the work, is to really reflect on all the things that have been documented during the research part, and to visualize them, right? You were saying? Подсказывай мне. Я говорю, подсказывай мне. Okay, yeah, true. Without trying to separate the themes into the binary of black and white. So, for example, I would also have an honor to speak a little bit about Sofia's work, because she's a creative documentary artist.
Sorry, by black and white you mean positive and negative experiences?
Yeah, positive, negative experiences. Okay. Yes, a positive and negative visualizations, but rather go beyond.
Я пока продолжу, что в итоге мы решили сконцентрироваться на процессе построения дома, ощущения дома в новых пространствах, потому что во многих опытах, которыми с нами делились, просвечивало, проскальзывало то, как женщины стремились обрести свое место, свое комьюнити, свои привычные места, где они чувствовали бы себя хорошо и безопасно, свои рутины, которые помогали бы им чувствовать себя дома.
So we try to focus primarily on the sense of home and creating a sense of belonging, and especially during this mobility, how do these young Uzbekistani women are trying to capture the essence of what it means to feel like home through the processes of mundane, through the domestic spaces, through repetition as well, through objects and that kind of like an artifacts. And like throughout all of this, the research part, throughout all of them, there was this kind of a highlights of how, meanwhile being like a foreigner everywhere, how do we capture and sense the sense of like the belonging, and how does it transforms into actions and having the memories, the continuation of traditions, and so on.
Да, то если говорить о какой-то технической части видео, то мы работали с личными архивами Насти и моими архивами, и остальную часть видеоматериала мы записывали непосредственно в Ташкенте.
So to speak about the videos per se, we were working on both like archival documents that they had already, like a personal archives of Anastasiya and Sofia, and then it was added up with the new video works that has been documented throughout Tashkent area. I would also like to add here that do you want to say about the micro and macro levels as well?
Да, наверное, я скажу, что две видеоработы, они поделены на микро- и макроуровни. Это условное такое разделение. По сути, в видео, посвященное макроуровню, мы исследуем бытие, жизнь в более больших пространствах, в более людных местах, то, как мы выстраиваем отношения с городом, с большими комьюнити. И в обеих видеоработах вплетены цитаты, это прямые цитаты девушек из интервью. Да.
So there are two videos, video essays, and they're separated by, so one of them is looking at all of these experiences from a macro level, and that means, we're looking at this wider sort of lens, through a wider lens at like the relationship with the city, within wider communities, this movement that happens between the cities and between countries. And also in all of the videos, we also added sort of these poetic quotes from the testimonies and the interviews, the conversations, the bonding sessions that were happening throughout these months.
Да, и работа на микроуровне сосредоточена больше на близких взаимоотношениях, домашних пространствах, каких-то рутинных делах.
And the micro level video, which is closer here, you'll see it. It's focusing on these like close-ups, relationships between people, their interactions, domestic spaces, and what was the last one? I forgot.
Also like the sense of identity.
Yeah, sense of identity and just this idea of like people coming together and how do we, create a sense of collectivity and solidarity between each other. And I think, this video is also kind of underlining our interactions as a collective and our ideals as a collective as well.
Я последнее скажу, что, наверное, вот про то, почему там только Ташкент и почему там много личных архивов. Это своеобразная форма рефлексии, потому что София, она очень много своей рабочей практики как фотографки, документирует именно изменения городского пространства, какие взаимоотношения строятся, как люди взаимодействуют между собой. И когда мы использовали личные архивы, это была наша своеобразная рефлексия обо всем том, что нам рассказывали женщины, и также о том, как мы сами пытаемся навигировать в привычных нам пространствах, ландшафтах с учетом их быстрого изменения.
Okay. One last thing. So the reason why we used personal archives is also a part of our personal reflection. So Sofia, in her practice, she looks a lot at these, urban spaces that we exist in and how these spaces change throughout time and through interactions with people. And for us, after having all these conversations with wonderful women in the community, we were sort of like trying to juxtapose, I guess, these experiences and see how we can, do justice to that through also our personal lens and using these personal archives. Yeah, am I missing something? Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to say that also it makes a lot of sense because Kazakh Collective, there is not a kind of a big division between the organization that does the thing, and then there are people who were participating in the research because they are grassroots, and it's kind of we're all sharing the community in a very horizontal way, and we're not using the binary of divisions and the roles. It's a shared leadership, and so it just makes a lot of sense that their works are as included and represented, and specifically Sofia Seitkhalil creative documentary practices of catching up these liminary spaces.
I just wanted to also say that there is area with Sofia's photographs as well, and we really wanted to highlight Sofia's work and how she engages with the city, because I think it's a very unique way she captures Tashkent as a city and these little interactions that happen between the people who live in Tashkent, the young generation especially, and yeah, we just we love her.
I'm a big fan.
Big fan. Okay, there's a lot of aspects of the works that we're going to take a while, but I really want Gulnoza to talk about the performance video first, if that's okay. Yeah.
So the performance video is exploration of our daily practices in which we explore our agency, and it was important for me to share this visibility and representation with our colleagues within the community. So there were 13 performers, and my role was as a curator, coordinator. I came up with a context and concept and invited my colleagues to participate in this, because for me it was very important for them to have their self-representation. So each of them, they filmed themselves and they came up with their own daily rituals from their life, small habits, as for example is the micro level of the, it's very similar concept. And we co-edited the video together, and my role was I also participated as a performer and then edit all the video together. So I can say that it was very horizontal practice where each participant saved their autonomy, and yeah.
Just wanted to add that when Gulnoza says that her role it wasn't mean that there was a role that is assigned to her. It was her, you who decided to take this role and to share these possibilities, which is it's just fascinating that the people do this.
I think as Aziza said, it's important to, when you have resources, to give it back to the community. So yeah, I decided this, but I'm really grateful for the performers that they agreed and participated in this journey with me, and yeah, it was really exciting.
I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to bring everything together right now. So yeah, I'm really happy we talked about the videos, because they're fascinating, and we had some people come in from Tashkent just saying that this is such a poignant representation of their own experiences, in the childhood and growing up in the city. And I really hope we're, through the videos, we're managing to really convey the reality of the city and the stuff that, normally isn't seen. But talking about the entire show, I think it is important to say that we have tried to, and I hope we succeeded in creating like this total installation, which is a singular statement, and you can't take any parts out. Even now, there's no sound, and I'm like, this space is not working anymore. So every single element works with each other in a way that, you know, it cannot be taken out of the context, cannot be taken out of this exhibition. And we don't even have names for separate installations or anything, because we just want everything to be done as the queue. And sort of this representation of the research that we did in terms of the sculptural elements and whatever you see with textiles and stuff, it is also, the research was amazing. And then, you know, when I got access to the materials and I was looking at the certain, I guess, not conclusions, because I don't feel like there's an end to it, but certain ideas that was transpiring, I was then scrutinizing the materials and the conversations, and then trying to, because I work mostly with like bodily expression and textile and this tangible mediums, I was trying to see how we can translate the things that were said and the emotions that were conveyed into a more physical expression, you know, something that is nonverbal, something that is visual, or represents a certain bodily expression or an embodied memory. So the costumes that you see is an attempt to sort of create a physical space or this sort of, you know, distorted costume-like sculpture that is embodying a certain gesture or a movement that is representative of specific aspects of the research. So what we say is that, we encourage the audience to actually engage with the sculptures and maybe follow the movements or sit in the little dome and like in this little soundproof space and try to feel something. Or, you know, there's this sculpture where it's actually two people that can link arms, and this is moment of connection that is unexpected, which is, you know, creating the sense of discovery, but also embodying the memories. So this idea of like transferring this embodied memory onto someone who has not experienced the same thing, like, is it possible? It's all an experiment. Of course, I don't have an answer, so I would love you to tell me if that's something that works. And there's also a lot of visual elements, the visual language of embroidery, which is, you know, also an experiment of like, how do we take this ancient art that is also one of the earliest representations of female collectivity, of women coming together and embroidering different meanings onto the canvas. How do we take this language and, you know, modernize it in a way that is relevant to us as a generation of, you know, the 21st century? So, you know, we employ AI and technology in different ways. In that one, it's more obvious. In other ones, it's less obvious. We do, like, for the sculptures, we use a lot of 3D scanning and like experimenting with like working in 3D programs, trying to find this like continuous movement. But this is all behind the scenes. It's not really seen. And in the end, we create some, you know, very tangible textile sculptures. But we do employ a lot of like these new tools, and it's something that is really interesting to us. And talking about the soundscape as well, because we don't have our sound artists here, unfortunately, with us, so I will talk about it a little bit. So we have Amalia Aybusheva, who is a Tashkent-based musician, songwriter, sound designer, and her practice is a lot about collecting these sounds, again, you know, working with the landscape and working with the soundscape of the city, and collecting these snippets and representations of the city and its inhabitants, and making music out of it, or making different sounds. So we asked her to work with us on it as well. And then we had Vanessa Kilario, who's also my long-term collaborator, who very graciously helped us create this 6-channel sound that, you know, has these portals, sound portals to Uzbekistan, recordings of testimonies of women, and also, you know, something that evokes the sensation of backstage. So all of these layers come together to create the soundscape that I do think it unites all the pieces together in a way. Whew.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you also talk about the role of Madina Kosimbayeva? who has created those wonderful curtains and the embroideries early in the stage?
Of course. So we worked with wonderful Madina Kasimbayeva and her studio. Madina is a renowned Uzbek embroiderer, and we're very lucky to have collaborated with her. So the curtains that you see here and also the embroideries with the AI were created in collaboration with Madina. And actually after this talk there will be a performance, so you'll be able to see how she actually works on the pieces. It's really exciting, fascinating. And yeah, I think there was this incredible exchange that was happening, and it wasn't even one way. Because, in conversations with Madina, like, I obviously learned so much, and we all learned so much from her, and how, the practices and the collective practices and the women working all of these. But Madina actually said that she managed to learn a lot of things from us as well, because, for example, for her, this kind of more kind of imaginary, sort of weird way of creating patchworks and embroideries was a new medium, and, working with the fabrics with Bekasam, which is omnipresent in this space, which is actually this fabric that Sofia is wearing. Even though it's such a traditional textile, it's never been on the radar. And then now she's like, oh, I've discovered this beauty in the mundane because it's such an everyday fabric. But now,
what's different about the fabric? Like, why is it not used?
So Bekasam is actually, so this type of Bekasam, it's very like locally Tashkent, blue and black stripes. It's got different variations of color, but it's an everyday textile. It's nothing that is used in like anything, if you want to dress for a wedding or something. It's it's used for everyday clothes. And to me personally, it's important because what we're showing again is these daily practices, these little things that form our identity and the beauty of the everyday. And this is why I wanted to highlight this fabric that is normally overlooked. And there's a metaphor in there. I'm not gonna even explain it, but that's why we use it, but it's not used for embroidery, that's the thing. So in a way, even though it's everywhere, it's omnipresent, there's this connection that was made, that didn't exist before.
I think I have one last question before opening the floor. So you are participating in the Venice Biennale, which is, a huge thing, within the industry. But what opportunities do you think it will open up for you, like personally and professionally?
Окей. На самом деле сейчас как будто сложно предугадать, но мы надеемся, что это поможет нам сделать более видимым центральноазиатских художниц, узбекистанских художниц. Не то чтобы они сейчас совсем невидимы, а скорее они невидимы, может быть, для этого мира. И хочется, чтобы люди увидели, что у нас много молодых, талантливых художниц. И да, хочется эту представленность, хочется эти возможности, чтобы они доставались центральноазиаткам в том числе.
Honestly, I don't know what to expect, but it's very important for us to give more visibility to the artists from Central Asia. And it doesn't mean that they are not visible now, but this is about to giving them representation and making them visible to the global world. And did I miss something?
Yeah, I think so.
But also I wanted to add that sometimes when we talk about opportunities, we sometimes somehow think on the future ones, but also just wanted to acknowledge that it's already been great that all the work has been done to this point, and that throughout the years of work within the collectives in our region, in Uzbekistan, now, for example, ACDF provided this kind of gave the curatorial leadership, to CCA and Bigzot with Malika, who are young. We are all the same age curators of this exhibition, and then we've managed to make such a wonderful bonding together. And now, like, it's already so much that has been done. So I just wanted to like highlight how great that it's not only like the future that we are looking for, but also celebrating the things that have been done before us, that also brought us here, and all the work that we have been doing in the last months on the bondings and like transforming together on these kind of various layers. So, and I hope like, I just see that it's the structures that are building up, that are getting more like amplified in a sense, and it will just continue.
Yeah, I think I'm also really grateful. Our team is really young. Most of us are under 30. Most of us, right? Okay. So all of us came together, and there was this, as you say, bonding. And to me, the process was the most precious thing. And I think one of the main sort of takeaways from this was actually building a platform for each other and finding these opportunities, and like, from now on, we'll be able to share these opportunities with others, and maybe, you know, just the fact that we were able to do this, I hope will open doors for more young artists from Uzbekistan and Central Asia, you know, come on the global stage and just get more recognition and more opportunities in the future.
Great, thank you. Do you have some questions? Yep.
Yes, we have questions.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Tia, and I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to collective labor, collective work, methods and tools that collectives can essentially use to make processes more enjoyable, really achieve like next levels of conviviality, togetherness, all of that. So if it's comfortable with you, could you share perhaps some tools or methods you use when things get tough, through failures, successes, how you keep in touch or check in with each other? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this question, because it's just like a pleasure to hear. Yeah, it's just we have a lot of role models as well of the people who are practicing these, because we're like, as we were saying, young, but it's also what we're trying to do on a collective, like initiatives level, is to learn from each other. So then, for example, there are like organizations like Femagora or Artcom platform from whom they are somehow being role models for us, and then we get together throughout generations, and the people before us. It's there is a difficulty that there are so many processes that are undocumented, and they are like part of the oral histories. So it's very crucial for us to get together like on a digital spaces or in a physical spaces to be able to talk how do we actually bond without like pretending to be bonding. Because it's so easy to say yes sometimes, and it's much more love and care and transformation when we say no to each other or no to possibilities. And how do we put, like, that there is, I was always saying that there is so much trust in the relationships in which we can have an argument, like a good argument, when we can disagree with each other, when we can say like, oh, I actually see this differently. And then we're also trying to create this actually safe space to be able to say no, knowing that there is going to be nothing afterwards, like that we're not going to cancel each other. And of course, it's very vulnerable to open up on this level. And when we see other collectives that are practicing this, it gives a lot of hope that it's not just us like trying to do something different, because it's like it's even difficult to like explain and call what like those processes of the bonding. But yeah, like, does anyone wants to add something on?
Думаю, что ты хорошо и много всего сказала.
I think you said it brilliantly.
Okay.
No, there's an actual translator. Just I said it in a funny way.
я, наверное, бы хотела сказать, может быть, на более бытовых уровнях и на более каждодневных практиках.
I guess I would like to just, I think like it's, you capture it quite great on like on a global scale. I would like to say it on more like somehow on a more like a mundane, everyday practices.
Да, например, когда мы работали, и мы с Софой проводили очень много времени вместе. Мы и так много времени вместе проводим, но тогда мы вообще не разлучались и прилипли друг к другу, как не знаю что.
I just wanted to like, so yeah, because if we do this thing, just it's easier for me to record it. Yeah, so on a mundane level, like me and Sofa, are spending a lot of time together. But during the work on the video performance, for example, video essays, we spent a lot of time together, and we just like got glued in a sense, like.
Да, и у меня есть привычка, что я забываю поесть.
And I have the tendency to forget to eat.
И Софа всегда напоминает мне о том, что надо покушать, и просто заставляет меня встать и поесть.
And so I have this tendency to forget to eat. And then Sofia is the one who is like, Nastya, you're supposed to eat, and then she's kind of pushing me and providing me food sometimes.
Да, и на таком примере очень простом я хотела сказать, что, наверное, в нашей работе очень много коллективной заботы, не только на каком-то глобальном уровне, но и в самых простых вещах, потому что мы действительно хорошо друг друга знаем и стараемся заботиться друг о друге, давать пространство для того, чтобы быть неудобными и некомфортными иногда, но также радоваться и любить друг друга.
So what she was saying basically is that it's not only like on a big level care that we are practicing like on a global scales, but I know that this example about the food, it's very basic and simple, but it does embody somehow these inner structures of care on a collective level, that we are able to provide each other this possibility as well to be uncomfortable for each other, to learn how to be each other within, like, and causing the discomfort too, at the same time loving and accepting one another.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? I'm sure we do.
I'm sure we do.
You're great at putting people. I'm sorry, I waited a little while, so thank you. No, I was just thinking in the context of the biennial and visiting it now for a few years, we've seen a lot of Western concepts being applied to art produced in the global South. I see it as a kind of new wave of colonialism, and I think it's a bit problematic. But immediately when you said that this exhibition, this work works together as a whole only, that now it seems weird without sound, immediately the word Gesamtkunstwerk comes to mind. But I am trying to like decolonialize my brain in that sense. So I was thinking if you put some, like perhaps some theoretical research or talked amongst each other of coming up with some new concepts for that, so that we're not using just these like old rigid phrases. Thank you.
I think this is going to come after, to be honest, because there was such a crunch time, like to come up with this, and I think this exhibition again is a manifestation of these like subconscious things that we have when we work as a collective, and just like a metaphor for this holistic approach to everything that we do, this intersectionality and interdisciplinarity. And I think, we're planning a couple of debrief sessions, and like we're also planning a catalog, obviously, that is in the works. And this is the place where we're actually going to do some of the more sort of reflections on this subject, I think.
I didn't catch the last part, like the last sentence.
So what is the theoretical frameworks that maybe we talked about that is not, coming from the Western sort of train of thought, like Gesamtkunstwerk, but maybe something that is more about, our own. Actually, Gulnoza will have an answer. I know that.
There is a research based, like. On the work. For example, when we talk about agency, we have to be clear that it's not it's not freedom, it's not emancipation, it's very different. It's a capacity for an action that is formulated by certain kind of social or landscapes. And we did our research, we did our homework, and
Gulnoza did.
Me, for example, I came up with this mundane tasks because I read a lot about agency works by Saba Mahmoud, by Svetlana Peshkova, by Razia Sultanova, and there are many more women who are not like Western-based, and they have different approach. They are not Western-oriented, and they suggest different theories and different way of thinking. So you can come up with an alternative way of I don't know way of thinking on gender terms. So
Yeah.
And also, I have this various thinking about the theory and practice. I do teach like a critical theory applied to design and decolonial design in Barcelona, but at the same time, I have this sensation on when we are working with the research and who do we read. And like we read it at the same, like critically, and trying to make not only synthesis of what was coming from there, but also to see how does it feels in our bodies, how do we feel, does it seems right to us, but also at the same time, like me personally, I try to not dwell too much in the theory, because for me, the theory is the documentation of what has been done by practice in the grassroots organizations and initiatives just like ours. So it's we are doing kind of we're focusing quite a lot on the practice that we are doing ourselves, and that we're trying somehow to at least somehow document all the synthesis that we're able to make up and do our own knowledge production that is like sometimes in conversation of those things, the theory that is out there, that is in the Western world, but also like that comes from the global South, which like I don't really use this term global South, but still, and that those that has been done also in our regions.
I'm thinking about the fact that the whole concept of Gesamtkunstwerk is rooted in theatrical tradition, and then theater, there is like a very rich performative theatrical tradition outside of the Western tradition, and this project brings together all these crucial elements, the body, the scenery, the costume, the sound, the space. Can you talk about it, like how you managed to combine your theatrical experience with working on such a scale?
I think for me, there's a lot of subversion because, so in my personal background, I've worked in theaters across the world, in different countries, in the West, in the East, for the lack of a better word, and they were always built up in a Western tradition. Even in China and in Uzbekistan, and I think I was trying to take this like visual framework and sort of rebuild it in my own terms, but also trying to avoid tokenization and exotification and all of that. And yeah, this I think that was this approach, because obviously we find ourselves, and all the visual language is quite sort of Western theater. Or like a Western model of a theater, but it houses very authentic experiences of young women in Uzbekistan, and I think it's also about these, the experience. So my experience of navigating endlessly these corridors with random artifacts and props and costumes that always told disjointed stories, and that somehow resonated with this idea that, in my personal experience, and also as we found out through the research and many other experiences of, this disjointed narratives of memories and fragments of languages and dialects and socialects, as you say, in everyone's brain. And yeah, that's why this backstage and the journey sort of seemed an appropriate way to create this physical journey for the viewer. And I think also a familiar way, because still we are in a conversation with people who come to Venice, which also has a very rich theatrical tradition. So I guess, you know, in order to have a dialogue, you need to have one common word at least.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question. And if nobody wants to volunteer, I have one question myself. So, you know, you've been working on this project for a long time, and, you know, you kind of had an imaginary audience, and, you know, you kind of developed the project for a long time, only seeing this space, you know, on photographs, and as I mean, many of you haven't been to the Biennales before, and so after, you know, coming here, doing this project and seeing other projects, you know, the other pavilions, what's your response to it? What's your like initial gut feeling at, you know, what's happening here, and, you know, the themes, and, you know, this international, you know, festival of contemporary art? How do you like? What do you feel about, I don't know, not yourself, but about the world we live in?
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's our first time at the Biennale for all of us, and also first time in Europe for Sofia and Anastasiya and Gulnoza. Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. Again, I will give my mic to someone else because I haven't had time to go to any other pavilions, which I'll do today. But I know that you guys have, you girls, you ladies. Any responses?
No, like, I think like I didn't have time to run over. I really love to spend time in the Lebanon Pavilion, and we got connected, and I just really loved, because for me it was the first time that I'm in the Venice, like in a Biennale, and the first thing, like when I was passing through, I was like, oh, the people are like very careful and accurate, and there is always this sense of distance between the people, and how this, like the pavilions, the interpersonal relationships. And then when I passed over through Lebanon Pavilion, and I've heard women laughing, and they were hugging, and they were not speaking like these, but they were just like taking up their space. And I was like, I love you all. Like, I want to be friends with you, because it was just so great to spend the time there.
Yeah, we were there together.
Yes, and also like from Saudi Arabia.
Also,
they were also there, and we were just like connecting a lot, like also via Instagram now, and being like all women in power, like how our pavilions are so alike. And for me it was just nice, as it was my first time here, to see, like we went there with Aziza to meet up and talk. And after this, like it was my I guess a couple of days since it was the beginning, I was like, oh, I would like to feel also a bit more like, I don't know, the body is a bit more comfortable within the space, and that they can laugh and smile. And then it's like, oh, it was like a good example that they set for us. And then we were just discussing it later on.
Yeah, no, this is what I really appreciate. We were making these connections and seeing the reflections of the thoughts that we have in other pavilions, and I think that is a very exciting thing, you know, having these conversations and seeing that, you know, a similar work in different ways, but a similar work is being done in these countries that, you know, maybe are culturally similar, less similar, or completely dissimilar. You know, I went to the ceremony today in the morning, and there was a all women's collective who got, I think, yeah, the Golden Lion. I think it was a collective from Aotearoa, which is New Zealand, and you know the way they talked about their own member of the collective who couldn't be here because they're about to give birth to their child, and there was so much like care in that, and just seeing these reflections, you know, from a country far, far away, and there's so many connections that are appearing from that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Please join me in congratulating the artists with this tremendous achievement and this wonderful project.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming and thank you for listening. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed this talk and enjoyed the pavilion. You know, we tried to do very honest and genuine work, and you know, we put our entire hearts, all of our hearts in it, and we're really excited to share. So,
Thank you. And thank you, Denise, to moderate this conversation.